I pretended to go on a work trip for 5 days, and what my boyfriend did inside our apartment completely destroyed the person I thought I loved. I want to be honest about something before I even start this story. I was not innocent in how this whole thing began. I made a calculated decision. I planned it. I executed it. And even now, sitting here typing this out, I do not fully regret it, because what I found out during those 5 days changed the entire direction of my life. My name is Reese. I am 28 years old. I work remotely as a content strategist for a marketing agency, and I have been with my boyfriend Daniel for 3 years. We moved in together about 14 months ago into a 2-bedroom apartment that we both loved. Good neighborhood, nice natural light, close to a coffee shop I basically lived in on weekends. On paper, everything was fine. More than fine, actually. But something had been feeling off for about 4 months before I did what I did. Nothing I could put my finger on exactly. Daniel was not suddenly coming home late or acting shady with his phone or doing any of the obvious things people talk about when they describe finding out their partner was being unfaithful. It was quieter than that, smaller. He just felt far away, like he was physically present in our apartment but mentally somewhere else entirely. Conversations felt surface level. Date nights felt like he was just going through the motions. Physical affection dropped off in a way that he kept attributing to work stress. I believed him for a while. Daniel worked in project management for a construction company, and the job was genuinely demanding. Long calls, tight deadlines, difficult clients. I had seen him stressed before, and I knew what that looked like. So I gave him grace. I gave him space. I told myself this was just a rough patch and that every long-term relationship had them, and that I was not going to be the girlfriend who panicked over a few quiet months. But then something small happened that I could not shake. It was a Tuesday night in February. I had gone to bed early because I had an early call the next morning. Daniel said he was going to stay up and watch something. Normal. Totally normal. I fell asleep around 10 and woke up at almost 2 in the morning and reached over to his side of the bed, and he was not there. I lay there for a minute thinking maybe he fell asleep on the couch. Got up to check. He was not on the couch. I found him in the second bedroom that we used as a home office, sitting at his desk in the dark with just his phone screen lighting up his face. The moment I opened the door, he closed whatever he was looking at so fast that it made a sound. He said he could not sleep. Said he was just scrolling. Said sorry for staying up so late. His voice was totally calm. His face was totally calm. But his hand was still covering the phone screen even though it had already gone dark. I said okay and went back to bed. But I did not sleep. I lay there in the dark for 2 hours and I thought about all the small things. The distance. The going through the motions. The dropped affection. And now this. A man hiding his phone screen from his girlfriend of 3 years at 2 in the morning in a dark room. I did not confront him the next day. Or the day after. I am not a reactive person by nature. I think before I move, and this situation was no different. I needed information before I needed a conversation. Because I had learned from watching other people go through this that confronting someone without proof just gives them time to clean up their story, and I was not going to give Daniel that opportunity. So I started thinking. And after about 2 weeks of thinking, I came up with the plan. My agency had a client conference coming up in Chicago. It was optional for my role, but I had been planning to go. I told Daniel I was going. Confirmed the dates. Made a whole thing about packing and coordinating and being slightly stressed about the travel. He was supportive. Offered to drop me at the airport. Normal boyfriend behavior? What Daniel did not know was that I had already canceled my conference registration. I was not going to Chicago. I had booked a hotel room 12 minutes away from our apartment. And I had ordered something online that arrived in a plain box 3 days before my fake departure date. 2 small wireless cameras. Both no bigger than a coin. I am not proud of every choice I made. But I'm also not going to pretend I was not going to do exactly what I did next. Reese had a plan. A hotel room 12 minutes away, and 2 hidden cameras inside the apartment she shared with Daniel. She thought she was prepared for whatever she was going to find. She was not even close to prepared. I have stayed in nicer hotels, and I have stayed in worse ones. The one I checked into that Thursday afternoon was fine. Clean, quiet, decent Wi-Fi, a window that looked out onto a parking garage. I sat on the edge of the bed with my laptop open and my phone next to me, and I pulled up the camera app. Both cameras had connected without any issues. I had placed one in the living room, angled toward the couch and the front door, tucked behind a row of books on the shelf that Daniel never touched. The second one I placed in the home office, pointed at his desk, hidden inside a fake succulent I had bought specifically for this. He had never once commented on the plants I brought into the apartment, so I was not worried about that one. The feeds were clear. Good resolution. The apartment was empty because Daniel was still at work. I watched the living room feed for a few minutes just to make sure everything was working, and then I closed the laptop and sat there and thought about what I was actually doing. I want to be real about this part because I think it is important. Sitting in that hotel room alone, I felt genuinely terrible. Not because I thought I was wrong to be suspicious, but because I was aware that if I was wrong, if Daniel was just going through something personal and the distance had nothing to do with another person, then I had just set up cameras in our home and lied to his face, and those were not small things. Those were serious things. The kind of things that could end a relationship on their own. I almost called it off. I genuinely sat there for about 40 minutes going back and forth. I even picked up my phone to text my best friend Maya about it. But then I remembered that Maya had a big opinion about everything and would probably talk me into or out of it based on her own feelings rather than mine, so I put the phone down. I ordered room service. Pasta which I barely ate. Watched half a movie I cannot even remember now. And then at around 8:30, my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the living room camera. Daniel was home. I watched him come through the front door. He was still in his work clothes, loosened tie, looking tired the way he always looked on Thursdays. He dropped his bag by the door, went to the kitchen, opened the fridge, stood there for a minute the way people do when they are not actually hungry, but need something to do with themselves. Then he closed the fridge without taking anything and went to the couch and picked up his phone. He stayed on his phone for a long time. I could not see the screen, obviously. He ordered food. I could tell from the delivery app notification sound I recognized. Ate alone on the couch watching something on the TV. Completely normal. Completely quiet. By 11, I was exhausted from watching nothing happen, and I fell asleep with the app still open on my phone. Friday was the same. Daniel went to work. Came home, ate, watched TV. Went to bed at a reasonable time. I started to feel the first real wave of guilt because this was a man just living his life alone in his apartment, while his girlfriend spied on him from a hotel 12 minutes away. But then Saturday happened. Saturday morning, Daniel slept in, which was normal for him. I watched him make coffee, sit at the kitchen counter scrolling his phone, shower, get dressed in actual clothes, which was slightly unusual for a Saturday when he typically stayed in sweats until noon. At around 11, he texted me. I watched him type it, and then my phone buzzed. The text said, "Hope the conference is going well, babe. Miss you." I stared at that text for a long time. Then I watched him on the camera put his phone down, finish his coffee, pick up his keys, and walk out the front door. I switched to the exterior camera angle I had not mentioned yet. I had not placed one outside, but I had a doorbell camera we had installed months ago that I also had access to. I watched Daniel get into his car, and I watched him drive away. My heart was already going fast. I picked up my phone and I opened our shared location app. We had turned it on mutually about a year ago. Nothing suspicious about it, just one of those things couples do. I watched his little dot move across the map. And then I watched it stop. It stopped at an address I did not recognize, a residential street about 20 minutes from our apartment. And it stayed there for 4 hours. Daniel had texted Reese saying he missed her while she watched him do it live on camera. And now his location was sitting still at an address she had never heard of for 4 straight hours. She needed to know whose house that was, and she already had a way to find out. I am the kind of person who, when I need to know something, finds out. I have always been that way. My mom used to call it stubborn. My college roommate called it intense. I just call it thorough. I had Daniel's location sitting on my screen at an address on a residential street called Weller Court. I did not recognize it. To my knowledge, Daniel did not know anyone on that street. His closest friends lived on the other side of the city. His coworkers mostly lived in the suburbs. His family was out of state. So I did what any thorough person does. I Googled the address. Nothing came up that was particularly useful. It was just a house. No business listing, no public profile attached to it. I tried a few different search combinations and got nothing concrete. Then I went to Instagram. I want to explain how I got here without making myself sound like a full investigator, which I am aware I was becoming. Daniel's Instagram was not private. He did not post often, maybe once every few weeks, but he had about 400 followers and followed around 350 accounts. I had looked at his following list before casually, the way you do when you are just scrolling, not with any specific suspicion. But now I was looking with intention. I went through his following list slowly. Most names I recognized. Friends, coworkers, family, some sports accounts, a few meme pages. And then about halfway down, I stopped at a name I did not recognize. The account was set to private. The profile photo was small, but I could make out a woman, dark hair, somewhere around our age. The username was not her real name, just a combination of words that did not tell me anything. She had 847 followers. Daniel had been following her for at least a year based on nothing I could actually confirm. I just noticed I had never seen her before. I requested to follow her from my own account, and then immediately felt stupid, because obviously she was not going to accept a follow request from a stranger while I was in the middle of all this. So I made a second account. Took me about 4 minutes. I gave it a generic name, pulled a few random photos of coffee cups and cityscapes from free image sites, made it look like a real but low-activity account, and sent her a follow request from that one. She accepted within 20 minutes. Her name was Brooke. She was 27. Based on her post, she lived locally, worked somewhere in hospitality, liked hiking, and her 2 cats and a specific ramen place downtown that Daniel had taken me to twice and always said was his favorite. Her grid was normal. Brunches, sunsets, gym selfies, occasional group photos with girlfriends. And then I scrolled back about 8 months and found a photo that made me put my phone face down on the hotel bed and just stare at the ceiling for a full minute. It was a photo of a coffee cup on a windowsill. Totally ordinary, the kind of photo everyone posts, but the windowsill, the specific ledge, the paint color on the wall behind it, the small chip in the corner of the sill that I had always meant to ask the landlord to fix. That was our apartment windowsill. Brooke had been inside our apartment at least 8 months ago and posted a photo from it. I picked my phone back up. I went back to the location app. Daniel's dot was still on Weller Court. I looked up Weller Court one more time, and this time I searched it alongside the city name and the word residence and found an old neighborhood association post with a list of names. It was outdated, probably 2 or 3 years old, but one of the names on the list of households matched the last name on a tagged photo I had just found on Brooke's grid. Weller Court was Brooke Street. Daniel had been at Brooke's house for 4 hours on the first Saturday after I supposedly left for Chicago. I sat with that information for a long time, not crying. Not yet, just very, very still. The way you get when something confirms what you already knew but were hoping was wrong. Then I opened the camera app and I looked at the empty apartment on the screen, and I made a decision about what I was going to do next that I had not fully planned for when I started all of this. I was not going to confront Daniel yet. I was going to wait, because I had 2 more days and I wanted the complete picture before I blew up my entire life. What happened on Sunday was something I was completely unprepared for. Reese had confirmed who Brooke was and where Daniel had spent his Saturday afternoon. She had 2 days left and she was staying in that hotel room until she had everything. But Sunday was about to give her information that changed the entire shape of the story she thought she was living. I woke up Sunday feeling the specific kind of tired that has nothing to do with how much you slept. I had actually slept fine. 7 hours solid. But I opened my eyes and the weight of everything just landed on me immediately, and I lay there for probably 20 minutes before I could make myself get up. I showered, made terrible hotel room coffee, sat by the window looking at the parking garage and thought about Brooke's Instagram and the windowsill photo and Daniel's little dot sitting on Weller Court for 4 hours, and I tried to figure out how I felt. The honest answer is I felt more sad than angry, which surprised me. I had expected to feel rage. I am not a person who is a stranger to anger. I feel it, I process it, I move through it. But what I felt that morning was closer to grief. Like something was already over and I was just waiting for the official confirmation. My phone buzzed. Daniel again. "Good morning, babe. How's the last day of the conference?" He had been texting me normally this whole time, checking in, acting completely like himself. And every single time I responded, I felt something complicated that I still do not have a clean word for. I texted back, said the conference was wrapping up and I was tired and looking forward to coming home tomorrow. All technically true except for the conference part. He sent a heart emoji, then nothing for a while. Around noon, the motion alert went off. Daniel was leaving the apartment again. I watched him on the doorbell camera, dressed again, hair done, which for a Sunday was notable. He got in his car and the location dot started moving. I watched it land on the same street. Weller Court. Again. He stayed for 3 hours this time. I did something while he was gone that I had been going back and forth on since Friday. I called Maya. I did not tell her everything. I told her enough. I told her I had reason to believe Daniel was seeing someone and that I had not confronted him yet, and that I needed someone to just listen without immediately telling me what to do. Maya is loud and opinionated, but she is also one of the most loyal people I have ever known. She listened. And when I was done, she was quiet for a second, and then she said something that I actually wrote down in my notes app because it hit me hard. She said sometimes the worst part of being betrayed is not the betrayal itself. It is realizing you had already known for a while and had been working very hard not to. I sat with that because she was right. I had known. Not the specifics, not the name, not the address on Weller Court, but that hollow feeling, that going through the motions distance, that man closing his phone screen in a dark room at 2 a.m. I had known something was wrong for 4 months, and I had chosen gentler explanations because the real one was too painful to sit with. Daniel came home Sunday evening. I watched him on the camera. He looked relaxed in a way he had not looked in months. That one observation hurt more than almost anything else. He looked like himself again. Easy, unburdened. The version of him I had been missing for 4 months was apparently available. Just not for me. He made dinner. Actually cooked, which he rarely did on weeknights. Pasta from scratch, which was something he used to do for me in our first year together. He ate alone at our kitchen table and scrolled his phone and then cleaned up and went to the couch. At around 9, he called someone. I could see him talking on the camera, but obviously could not hear the conversation. He talked for almost 40 minutes. He was smiling for most of it. I watched my boyfriend of 3 years smile for 40 minutes on the phone with someone who was not me, and I finally cried. Not dramatically, just quietly, alone in a hotel room with parking garage view, letting it happen and then stopping and wiping my face and deciding I was done being sad tonight because tomorrow I was going home. But before I closed the laptop, I noticed something on the office camera that I had not paid attention to before. Daniel had gone into the office after his call and sat at his desk. He was on his laptop, and on the desk next to the laptop was a small notebook that I recognized. A brown leather one I had given him as a gift 2 years ago that he used for work notes. It was open to a page full of writing. The camera resolution was not good enough for me to read it from the angle I had. But I could see it was densely written. Both pages full. I thought about that notebook all night. Reese was going home Monday morning with confirmation of everything she had suspected and a grief she was still learning the shape of. But the brown leather notebook sitting open on Daniel's desk was still in her mind. And when she walked through that front door, she was going to find out what was in it. What she read changed everything she thought she understood about the last 3 years. I checked out of the hotel at 10 Monday morning. I sat in my car in the parking garage for a few minutes before I drove. Not because I was not ready, but because I wanted to be clear with myself about what I was walking into and what I was going to do. I had 2 options. I could walk in, act normal, let things go back to whatever they had been and wait for Daniel to either come clean on his own or keep going indefinitely. Or I could walk in and have the conversation I should have had months ago when I first felt things shift. The second option was the only real one. I had never been good at performing okay when I was not okay, and 3 years with someone meant Daniel would see through it in about 20 minutes anyway. I drove home, parked in my usual spot, took my suitcase out of the trunk even though it had never actually been to Chicago, walked up to the apartment door and stood there for just a second, and then unlocked it and went in. Daniel was working from home that day. He came out of the office when he heard the door, and his face did the thing it used to always do when he saw me. This genuine, easy smile, and for one horrible second, he just looked like my boyfriend, and not the person I had spent 5 days watching from a hotel room. He hugged me, said he missed me, asked about the conference. I said we needed to talk. The smile changed. Not dramatically, just slightly. A subtle recalibration behind his eyes that lasted maybe half a second before he put something more neutral on his face. But I saw it. We sat down on the couch. I did not ease into it. I told him I knew about Brooke. I did not tell him how I knew. I just told him I knew, and I watched his face process that information in real time. He did not deny it. That part I had not fully prepared for. I think I had expected a layer of denial that I would have to push through, and instead he just sat there for a long moment and then put his face in his hands and said he was sorry. We talked for a long time. Hours. The kind of conversation that is exhausting in a way that goes beyond words, where you come out the other side feeling like you ran a race you did not train for. He told me about Brooke. They had met through a mutual coworker 8 months ago. It had started as friendship and then moved into something else around the 5-month mark. He said he had not planned it. He said he knew that was not an excuse. He said a lot of things that were probably true and still did not help. I listened. I asked questions. I did not yell, which surprised me. I had thought I might. I just wanted information and honesty, and he gave me both, which somehow made it worse and better at the same time. And then I remembered the notebook. I do not fully know what made me ask about it in that moment. Maybe because I had thought about it all night and it had become this thing in my mind that I needed to understand before I could close any of this. I asked him what was in the brown leather notebook on his desk. Something shifted in his face, different from the Brooke shift. This was something else. Something that looked less like guilt and more like something complicated that I did not have a name for yet. He was quiet for a long time. And then he got up and went to the office and came back with the notebook and put it on the couch between us and said I could read it if I wanted to, but that he needed me to know he had been planning to tell me himself. Soon. Before I got back, actually. That was what the notebook was. I opened it. It was not what I expected. Not even close. It was not notes about Brooke. It was not a journal of his feelings or an explanation of what had gone wrong between us. It was something I had to read 3 times before I fully understood what I was looking at. And when I did understand it, I put the notebook down and looked at him and said his name. And he nodded, and I felt the entire shape of the last 3 years rearrange itself into something I had not been seeing clearly. The notebook sitting on the couch between them was not what Reese had expected to find. Not even close. And what Daniel said next reframed the last 3 years in a way she had not been prepared for. The twist was not the betrayal. The twist was the truth underneath it. I am going to tell you what was in the notebook. It was a letter, addressed to me, 14 pages, front and back, written and rewritten in places where he had crossed things out and started over. It was dated 3 weeks before my fake work trip, which means he had been writing it while I was still home, while things still looked normal on the surface. The letter was Daniel telling me he was unhappy. Not with me, with himself, with his life, with the version of himself he had become over the last 2 years and had not known how to talk about. He wrote about feeling like he had been living on autopilot, going to a job he had stopped caring about 3 years ago, but felt too scared to leave because of financial stability and what people would think. He wrote about feeling disconnected from himself in a way he did not have language for, and did not know how to explain to me without feeling like he was failing at being a partner. He wrote about the distance between us and how it was not about me at all. It was him pulling inward because he felt like he was quietly falling apart and did not want me to see it. He wrote about Brooke. Honestly, he said she had come into his life at a point when he was already unraveling, and that he had made a mistake he was not proud of, and that the mistake had clarified something for him that he had not expected. Not that he wanted to be with her, but that he had been running away from himself for so long that he had started running away from us, and he had not recognized it until it was already damage. The last 2 pages of the letter were about me, what he loved about me, what he had been too checked out to show for the last several months, what he was afraid he had already broken by the time I read this. He had written at the very end, "I do not know if you can forgive this or if you should. I only know that you deserve the whole truth, and you have not been getting it, and that is on me entirely." I sat with that letter for a long time. I want to be careful about how I tell the rest of this because I know what people expect. Either I forgave him and we worked it out, or I left and it was empowering. Real life is usually messier than both of those options. Here is what actually happened. I did not forgive him that day. I told him I needed space, and he went to stay with a friend for 2 weeks, and I stayed in the apartment and felt every single feeling I had been holding since Saturday in the hotel room with the parking garage view. I called Maya. I cried for real this time. Not the quiet, controlled version from the hotel, but the kind that leaves you with a headache and a strange clarity afterward. I went to 1 therapy session and then booked 6 more. I took long walks. I ate badly for a week and then started cooking again because cooking has always been the thing that makes me feel most like myself. I thought about the notebook. About a man who had been quietly drowning and had handled it in the worst possible way. About whether the explanation made the betrayal smaller or just more human. About the difference between understanding something and accepting it. About what I actually wanted my life to look like going forward. And here is the part that surprised me most about myself. After 2 weeks, I asked Daniel to come back. Not to fix everything. Not because I had decided to pretend it had not happened, but because the notebook had shown me something real, and I was not ready to make a permanent decision from a temporary place of pain. We are in couples therapy now. It is not easy. Some sessions I leave feeling hopeful, and some I leave feeling like I am carrying something heavier than when I went in. Daniel started individual therapy too and is in the process of changing jobs. Something he should have done 2 years ago. I ended the fake work trip experiment by telling Daniel exactly what I had done. All of it. The hotel, the cameras, the Instagram investigation, the location tracking. I told him because I think honesty has to go both ways if this is going to mean anything. He was quiet for a long time when I told him, and then he said that was fair. We are not fixed. I do not know if we will be, but I stopped the cameras and I came home and I chose to stay in the uncertainty instead of running from it. That felt like the most honest thing I could do. The thing I keep coming back to is something my therapist said in our second session. She said the opposite of betrayal is not loyalty. It is transparency. And that rebuilding anything real requires both people to stop hiding, not just the one who got caught. I am still figuring out if we can do that. But I am no longer doing it from a hotel room 12 minutes away watching a screen.